Yo, what is poppin', my beautiful people? It's your boy Lexi back with another video. And today I am continuing my top 3 lists. This is the first one of the new year. So last time I did the top 3 tier 9 medium tanks. So I figured what better than to get on with the top 3 tier 9 heavy tanks. So without further ado, let's get right into our honorable mentions. And coming in at honorable mention number 1. So I'll start it off real quick. Tier 10 was a lot easier to judge based on like stats and all that, but I'm really this is gonna be more personal, opinionated. It's really gonna be it's based on my own personal preference, really. So coming in at honorable mention number 1 is the M103. So really, I chose the M103 just because I haven't played this tank in like 6 years and didn't realize that it fits into this meta, but still, it's a good tank nonetheless. It's got decent mobility. I say decent because for a heavy tank, it's got decent mobility. Not the fastest thing in the world. But really, again, it comes down to its gun. It's got a fantastic gun, coming in at .32 accuracy with the 7.4 reload and the 8.11 rate of fire with 400 alpha. It is really good, and the tank line itself is actually pretty good coming up to the M103, and it leads to the E5, which is one of my personal favorite tier 10 heavy tanks, although it is a little out of the meta as well as the M103. So honestly, in terms of the tanks that are on this list, I do believe the M103 is probably the weakest. But without it, I mean, you can still make this tank great. But yeah, I love the M103. So yeah, that's honorable mention number 1. Let's get to honorable mention number 2. And coming in at honorable mention number 2 is another OG tank. It is the T10, or if you remember it, it is the IS-8. So the T10 leads up to the IS-7. Well, actually, I don't think it leads up to the IS-7 anymore. Man, it's been so long. Let me check that. I think it actually leads up to let's see. Yeah, it leads to the 277. My bad. Whenever I went up that line and went to the IS-7, my apologies. Yeah, the T10 actually leads up to the 277, which I personally love. Great tank. But the T10 it leads to it. But I love the T10 with its 440 alpha, with a really good reload. Personally, I think this tank's better tier for tier than, say, the IS-4. The only problem it has is its reverse speed is very bad, but it does have a very good forward speed. But yeah, it does come down to that gun, and it has bounceable armor. Not reliable armor, but bounceable armor. This line's also very great going into the 277. So yeah, that's honorable mention number 2. It is the T10. Now, let's get into honorable mention number 3. And coming in at honorable mention number 3, it is the AMX M451. Sorry, I was looking at the tier 8 there. This tank leads to the AMX M454, but this is another one of those tanks I think is just better tier for tier. I actually enjoyed this tank more than the E75, even though I love the E75, but I actually loved the 127 that they allow you to mount on this thing, giving it that fat 470 alpha. Kind of a weird number, but 470 alpha for a tier 9 heavy tank is just nuts, and it gets that amazing hull armor, and I just think it is a perfectly balanced tier 9 heavy tank. The AMX M451 is just a beast at tier 9. One of my favorite tier 9 heavy tanks. So yeah, that's honorable mention number 3, and those are the 3 honorable mentions, being the M103, the T10, and the AMX M451. And I wanted to put the AMX M451 in the top 3, but it just missed to our number 3rd spot. And coming in at number 3, it is the WZ-111 Model 1.4. This tank leads up to the 5A, and ever since the 5A has been added, this tank and its tier 10 counterparts have just dominated the tier 10 heavy tank game. Even though heavy tanks are a little bit out of the meta lately, these tanks still just absolutely slap. They get the top forward speed of 50 kilometers. It gets 490 alpha damage with a really good reload to back it up, especially at tier 9. So yeah, if you get top tier matchmaking, this thing's an absolute beast. And even if you do get tier 10s, it can still hold its own. It's just not as great as its 5A counterpart. But yeah, this entire line's great. This tank's great. I wanted to put the AMX M451 here at the number 3 spot, but the WZ-111 just managed to sneak in here. And honestly, this top 3 was really hard. So yeah, my number one and number two picks can honestly be interchangeable with how much I like the tank, but it was so hard for me to choose. But we had to choose a number one and a number two. So let's get to number two. And coming in at number two, it is the E75, guys. I love the E75. It's another OG tank. The E75 actually wasn't as good as it as it now. I can't remember. I want to say it had 33 or maybe 35 max speed, but they ended up buffing that to 40 max speed on a tier 9 heavy tank with that 490 alpha gun, and that armor is just absolutely insane. I love the E75. Its gun, its armor, and its speed just make it a beast. And honestly, I'm not a fan of the E100. I'd rather play the E75 over the E100 any day. Give me the E75. So yeah, that is number two. It is the E75. Now, number one, like I said, these can be interchangeable. I love them both pretty much equally, but I had to give it to a number one, and I'll explain why. It is the Conqueror. So the reason I put Conqueror at number one is because of how easy this tank is to play. I think it's the best all-around tier 9 heavy tank, because the E75 has its flaws. Like, its gun handling for that big gun is honestly not that great. When I was playing it earlier, I could not. I was struggling to hit my shots a little bit. The Conqueror doesn't have that problem. The Conqueror's got this amazing 120 to be backed up by the spaced turret armor to allow you to be a hull-down menace. The only problem it has is it just doesn't have the hull armor that the E75 does, but I think it is without a doubt an all-around better tier 9 heavy tank than the E75. The Conqueror, leading on to the Super Conch and the Chieftain, that's another thing. It leads to 3 tier 10s. So you get to grind, 800, 900,000 experience on this absolute beast of a heavy tank. So the Conqueror is just, without a doubt, I think the best tier 9 heavy tank. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. That's my top 3 tier 9 heavy tanks. The next should be my top 3 tier 9 tank destroyers, so stay tuned for that. If you guys liked the video, please leave a like, subscribe, and also leave me your top 3 tier 9 lists down below. And I'll catch y'all next time.
I'm running out of time, every day goes by so fast, and every moment counts, baby, I don't wanna miss a thing. We can sleep under the stars, we can sleep under the stars, or hang out in hotel bars, driving somewhere in your car. We can sleep under